What if some of the most important signs in your life are not pointing toward success, wealth, or opportunity, but toward Allah Himself? Ibn Arabi taught that when Allah takes responsibility for guiding a soul, the evidence does not always appear in dramatic miracles or extraordinary events. It appears in subtler ways. The heart begins turning away from things it once chased. Certain mistakes become impossible to repeat comfortably. Unexpected lessons appear in ordinary moments. A quiet pull begins drawing the soul toward truths it never used to seek. To the outside world, nothing seems unusual. Yet beneath the surface, an invisible transformation is unfolding. The remarkable mystery is that many people ask Allah for guidance while overlooking the signs that guidance has already arrived. Tonight, we uncover the hidden evidence that Allah is guiding you and what truly happens when He takes responsibility for a soul's journey, when Allah begins changing what your heart pursues. The hidden evidence that Allah is guiding a soul appears long before any dramatic outward change becomes visible. It begins within the heart itself. A person who once spent much of their energy pursuing certain desires, ambitions, distractions, or forms of recognition gradually discovers that those same pursuits no longer satisfy them in the way they once did. Nothing may appear different from the outside. Their daily routine may remain similar. Their responsibilities may remain the same. Yet something within has started shifting. Ibn Arabi taught that guidance often begins as a change in attraction. Before Allah changes a person's circumstances, He frequently begins by changing what the heart is drawn toward. The soul starts losing its fascination with things that once occupied its thoughts day and night. Goals that once seemed essential begin feeling less important. Certain forms of entertainment lose their ability to completely absorb the mind. The endless chase for approval becomes less convincing. The pursuit of status, admiration, or constant achievement no longer carries the same power. This change can be confusing at first. The person may wonder why things that once excited them now leave them feeling empty. They may achieve something they worked hard to obtain, only to discover that the satisfaction fades quickly. They may receive the attention they once desired and realize that it does not answer the deeper questions of the heart. They may find themselves surrounded by opportunities, yet still feel that something important is missing. Many people mistake this experience for dissatisfaction with life. Ibn Arabi saw it differently. He understood that Allah sometimes removes the soul's attachment to temporary pursuits because He is preparing it to seek something greater. The heart begins realizing that no worldly achievement, no matter how impressive, can fully satisfy a longing that was created for Allah. This does not mean a guided person abandons worldly responsibilities. Guidance does not require rejecting work, family, success, or personal goals. Rather, it changes their place within the heart. These things stop becoming the ultimate purpose of life. They become part of the journey rather than the destination itself. As divine guidance deepens, a new kind of hunger begins appearing. The soul starts seeking meaning rather than mere stimulation. It becomes more interested in truth than distraction. Questions that once seemed unimportant begin demanding attention. The person starts reflecting upon their purpose, their relationship with Allah, and the direction of their life. They become more aware of the passing nature of worldly experiences and more curious about what remains beyond them. Ibn Arabi believed that this awakening is one of the earliest signs that Allah is taking responsibility for a soul's journey. The person does not force these changes. They often arrive quietly. The heart simply begins turning in a different direction. What once felt central begins moving toward the edges. What once seemed distant begins moving toward the center. The remarkable thing is that this transformation usually happens gradually. Allah does not always remove old attachments in a single moment. He gently loosens their hold upon the heart. The person begins noticing that their deepest moments of peace come from different sources than before. Reflection becomes more valuable. Remembrance becomes more meaningful. Time spent drawing closer to Allah begins carrying a satisfaction that worldly pursuits cannot replicate. This is not because the world suddenly loses all value. It is because the soul starts recognizing value in a different way. The heart learns to distinguish between what is temporary and what is lasting. It begins seeking what nourishes rather than merely entertains. It begins searching for what strengthens the soul rather than simply occupying it. There is a profound mercy hidden within this process. If Allah wishes good for a servant, He does not leave the heart permanently attached to things that cannot fulfill it. He gradually redirects its attention toward what will bring it closer to its true purpose. The person may not understand this while it is happening. They may only feel that something inside them is changing. They often look back and realize that this shift was one of the greatest gifts Allah ever gave them. The desires changed, the priorities changed, the questions changed, and because the heart changed, the direction of the entire life changed as well. This is one of the hidden pieces of evidence of divine guidance. Before Allah changes the road beneath a person's feet, He often changes what the heart is searching for. And when the heart begins seeking what is lasting instead of what is fleeting, the journey toward Allah has already begun. The invisible protection hidden inside divine redirection. Many people imagine guidance as being shown the correct path clearly and immediately. They expect guidance to feel like certainty, clarity, and the opening of doors. Yet Ibn Arabi taught that some of Allah's most profound guidance arrives in a form that the soul initially misunderstands. Instead of opening a door, Allah closes it. Instead of granting an opportunity, He removes it. Instead of allowing a plan to succeed, He permits it to fall apart. To the human mind, these experiences often feel like setbacks. To divine wisdom, they may be acts of protection. There are moments in life when a person becomes deeply attached to a particular outcome. They become convinced that a certain opportunity will bring happiness, that a certain relationship will complete them, or that a certain path is necessary for their future. They pray for it, plan for it, and invest their hopes in it. Everything within them moves toward that desired destination. Then, unexpectedly, something changes. The opportunity disappears. The relationship ends, the plan fails. The road that seemed so promising suddenly becomes inaccessible. The immediate reaction is often disappointment. The heart struggles to understand why something so strongly desired was withheld. The person may spend months questioning what happened. They may wonder why Allah allowed them to hope for something that never came to fruition. Because human beings naturally judge events through immediate appearances, they often interpret the closure of a door as evidence that something valuable has been lost. Ibn Arabi saw these moments differently. He understood that Allah's knowledge encompasses realities hidden from human perception. The servant sees what is visible. Allah sees what is concealed. The servant sees the opportunity. Allah sees where that opportunity would eventually lead. The servant sees the beginning of the road. Allah sees its destination. What appears beneficial from a limited perspective may contain consequences that the soul is unable to recognize. This is why divine guidance sometimes appears as prevention. Allah does not always guide a soul by giving it what it desires. Sometimes He guides it by protecting it from what it desires. A person may believe they are moving towards something beneficial, while Allah, in His mercy, redirects them elsewhere. At the time, the redirection feels painful because the wisdom behind it remains hidden. Yet hidden wisdom does not cease to exist simply because it has not yet been revealed. As the years pass, many people discover this reality for themselves. They look back upon a closed door that once caused them grief and realize that its closure protected them from a future they could not have carried. They remember an opportunity they desperately wanted, and later understand that receiving it would have distracted them from something far more important. They recall a path they once fought to follow, and eventually see that it would have led them away from the growth their soul truly needed. The remarkable thing is that divine redirection often works quietly. It does not always arrive through dramatic signs or unmistakable miracles. Sometimes it appears through small interruptions, unexpected delays, changing circumstances, or gradual shifts in direction. The soul may not even realize it is being guided. It simply finds that certain roads continue closing, while other possibilities begin emerging. Looking back later, the person discovers a pattern that was invisible at the time. Allah was gently steering their journey all along. Ibn Arabi believed that one of the signs of a guided soul is the gradual development of trust in this hidden protection. The person begins understanding that not every unanswered prayer is a rejection. Not every closed door is a loss. Not every interruption is an obstacle. Some events are forms of mercy, disguised as disappointment. Some redirections are forms of care, disguised as frustration. Some absences are forms of protection, disguised as deprivation. This understanding changes the way a person relates to life's uncertainties. Instead of viewing every setback as evidence that something has gone wrong, the heart begins leaving room for the possibility that Allah may be protecting it from realities it cannot yet perceive. This does not remove the pain of disappointment, nor does it make every difficulty easy to accept. However, it allows the soul to carry its experiences with greater trust. It recognizes that divine wisdom is active, even when divine wisdom remains hidden. The servant learns that guidance is not only found in the roads Allah opens, it is also found in the roads He prevents them from taking. The opportunities that disappear, the plans that fail, and the doors that close may all be part of a larger mercy that the soul will only understand later. What initially appears as restriction may actually be preservation. What appears as loss may actually be protection. What appears as rejection may actually be redirection toward something better suited to the journey Allah intends for that soul. This is the invisible protection hidden inside divine redirection. It is one of the quiet ways Allah guides those He cares for. He does not merely show them where to go, He also protects them from places they were never meant to reach. And when the wisdom behind those redirections is finally unveiled, many souls discover that some of the greatest blessings in their lives were not the doors that opened, but the doors Allah lovingly refused to let them enter. The awakening that makes ordinary life feel different. The most subtle sign that Allah is guiding a soul is not that life suddenly becomes extraordinary. It is that ordinary life begins to feel different. The world remains the same. The same streets are walked. The same responsibilities continue. The same people may remain present. Yet the person experiences these realities through a new awareness that did not exist before. Ibn Arabi taught that guidance is not merely a change in behavior, it is a change in perception. Allah begins teaching the soul to see beyond surfaces. Things that once appeared ordinary begin carrying deeper meaning. Experiences that were once ignored begin inviting reflection. The person becomes aware that life is not simply a collection of random events, but a journey filled with signs, lessons, and opportunities for recognition. This awakening often begins quietly. A person may find themselves reflecting on questions they never used to consider. They start wondering why they were created. They begin thinking about where their choices are leading them. They become more conscious of how quickly time passes. Moments that once disappeared unnoticed now seem valuable because they understand that every day is a portion of life that will never return. Before guidance deepens, many people experience time as something they simply spend. Days pass, weeks pass, Years pass, and little attention is given to what those years are creating within the soul. When Allah begins guiding a person, their relationship with time often changes. They become more aware of its sacred nature. They begin understanding that life is not measured merely by how much time passes, but by what the heart becomes during that time. This awareness naturally changes the way choices are viewed. Decisions that once seemed small begin carrying greater weight. The person becomes more thoughtful about where they invest their energy, what influences they allow into their life, and what habits they repeatedly practice. They start recognizing that every choice leaves a trace upon the soul. Some choices strengthen the connection to Allah, others weaken it. Some choices bring clarity, others create distraction. Ibn Arabi believed that guided souls gradually become aware of these subtle effects. They no longer evaluate decisions only according to worldly benefit. They begin asking deeper questions. Does this bring me closer to Allah or further away? Does this strengthen my heart or scatter it? Does this help me fulfill my purpose or distract me from it? Relationships also begin looking different through the lens of guidance. The person starts seeing people not merely as companions, colleagues, or acquaintances, but as part of the spiritual journey itself. Some people become sources of wisdom. Some become mirrors that reveal weaknesses needing attention. Some become reminders of patience, forgiveness, or compassion. Even difficult relationships begin carrying lessons that were previously overlooked. This change in perception extends further. The guided soul starts noticing signs of Allah's wisdom in places where it once saw only routine. A conversation arrives at exactly the right moment. A lesson appears when it is needed most. An unexpected encounter brings clarity to a question that has been lingering within the heart. What once seemed like coincidence begins feeling meaningful. The person becomes more attentive to the ways Allah teaches, reminds, and directs them through the ordinary events of daily life. As this awakening deepens, the purpose of existence itself begins appearing in a new light. Many people spend years focused primarily on achievement, comfort, security, or recognition. While these things remain part of life, they no longer occupy the center of the heart. The person begins sensing that they were created for something greater than merely passing through the world collecting experiences. A deeper longing emerges. The soul wants understanding. It wants the truth. It wants nearness to Allah. Ibn Arabi saw this awakening as one of the beautiful signs of divine guidance, because it changes the entire landscape of a person's life without necessarily changing their external circumstances. The same world remains around them, yet they no longer see it in the same way. The ordinary becomes meaningful, time becomes precious, choices become purposeful, relationships become lessons. Existence itself becomes a journey of discovery. This is why guided souls often feel that life has become different even when nothing dramatic has happened. The transformation is taking place within perception itself. Allah is teaching the heart to see what it once overlooked. He is opening the eyes of the soul to realities that were always present but never fully recognized. And once this awakening begins, the person rarely returns to seeing life in the old way. The world remains familiar, yet it is no longer ordinary. Every moment carries the possibility of a lesson. Every experience carries the possibility of wisdom. Every day becomes an opportunity to move a little closer to the one who is guiding the journey from beginning to end. When Allah begins teaching you through everything, the most beautiful sign that Allah is guiding a soul is that learning is no longer limited to books, lectures, or moments of formal worship. The person begins discovering that life itself has become a teacher. Experiences that once seemed ordinary start carrying meaning. Events that once appeared disconnected begin revealing lessons. The soul gradually realizes that Allah is capable of teaching through every circumstance, every encounter, every difficulty, and every blessing. Ibn Arabi taught that the entire world can become a place of instruction for the one whose heart has begun awakening. Before guidance deepens, people often divide their lives into separate categories. They see worship as one thing and daily life as another. They see spiritual growth as something that happens only during prayer, study, or reflection. Yet as divine guidance unfolds, the boundaries begin disappearing. The person starts recognizing that Allah's wisdom can appear anywhere. Success teaches gratitude. A failure teaches humility. A delay teaches patience. A blessing teaches responsibility. A hardship teaches reliance upon Allah. The guided soul begins noticing that every experience contains something valuable if approached with awareness. This transformation changes the way a person relates to life's challenges. Before, difficulties were often viewed only as obstacles. The immediate focus remained on escaping the discomfort. The person wanted the trial to end as quickly as possible. While this reaction is natural, Ibn Arabi understood that guidance invites the soul into a deeper relationship with its experiences, asking only, "How do I get through this?" The person begins asking, "What is this teaching me?" This question opens an entirely new dimension of understanding. A painful disappointment may reveal an attachment that had become too strong. A period of uncertainty may expose how dependent the heart has become upon control. A difficult relationship may uncover hidden impatience, pride, or unrealistic expectations. Experiences that once seemed meaningless begin acting as mirrors, reflecting truths about the soul that were previously hidden. The remarkable thing is that guidance does not only reveal lessons through hardship. Pleasant experiences also become teachers. Moments of success test gratitude. Moments of abundance reveal whether the heart remains humble. Moments of ease show whether a person remembers Allah when life becomes comfortable. The guided soul learns that every state carries wisdom, not only the painful ones. Ibn Arabi believed that Allah educates each soul according to its unique journey. This is why different people learn different lessons from similar experiences. What teaches patience to one person may teach trust to another. What teaches humility to one soul may teach gratitude to another. Divine guidance is deeply personal because Allah knows exactly what each heart needs in order to grow. As this awareness develops, the person becomes more attentive to life itself. They stop rushing past experiences without reflection. They become curious about the meanings hidden beneath events. They begin noticing patterns. Certain lessons seem to return repeatedly until they are understood. Certain reminders appear in unexpected places. Certain truths reveal themselves through situations that initially seemed unrelated. The world starts feeling alive with meaning. A conversation with a stranger carries insight. A moment of silence brings clarity. A challenge reveals strength that was previously unknown. An unexpected setback redirects the soul toward a better path. The person realizes that Allah's teaching is not confined to a classroom. His wisdom is woven throughout existence. This realization creates humility because the guided soul understands that learning never truly ends. Every day contains opportunities for growth. Every experience contains something worth noticing. The person becomes less focused on judging events and more interested in understanding them. They begin approaching life with a sense of openness, trusting that Allah can reveal wisdom through situations that the mind initially struggles to understand. This perspective transforms the relationship between the soul and the world around it. Nothing feels entirely meaningless anymore. The person may not immediately understand why something is happening, but they develop confidence that every experience can contribute to their journey toward Allah. This does not mean every event becomes easy to accept. Pain remains painful, loss remains difficult, confusion still exists, yet beneath those emotions is a growing awareness that Allah's wisdom is present, even when His wisdom remains hidden. Ibn Arabi saw this as one of the profound signs of divine guidance. The person stops moving through life, asleep to its lessons. Instead, they begin reading existence itself as a book filled with signs pointing toward Allah. Every chapter, whether joyful or difficult, becomes part of a larger education taking place within the soul. When this stage of guidance arrives, the believer no longer asks where the lessons are. The lessons are everywhere. Every day becomes a classroom. Every experience becomes a teacher. And every lesson becomes another step in the journey toward deeper wisdom, deeper understanding, and deeper nearness to Allah. The growing sensitivity to what distances you from Allah. Among the subtle signs that Allah is guiding a soul is the development of a new kind of awareness. Things that once passed unnoticed begin affecting the heart differently. Habits that once felt harmless begin creating discomfort. Environments that once seemed normal begin feeling heavy. Conversations that once occupied hours of attention begin leaving the soul strangely unsettled. The person may not immediately understand why these changes are occurring, but something within them is becoming more sensitive. Ibn Arabi taught that guidance is not only about being drawn toward what is beneficial, it is also about becoming aware of what quietly weakens the connection between the servant and Allah. As the heart grows closer to its Creator, it begins recognizing influences that it previously ignored. This awareness does not usually arrive through sudden judgment or harsh self-criticism. Rather, it emerges as a gradual refinement of perception. The soul starts noticing the difference between what nourishes it and what drains it. Before this stage of guidance, a person may move through life without paying much attention to the effect certain habits have upon the heart. They may spend hours immersed in distractions and feel little concern. They may surround themselves with influences that encourage heedlessness and never question their impact. They may allow their thoughts to wander endlessly without realizing how those thoughts shape their inner world. As divine guidance deepens, however, the person begins noticing consequences that were previously hidden from them. They become aware that certain actions leave the heart feeling distant from Allah. Certain environments make remembrance more difficult. Certain forms of entertainment occupy the mind long after they are over. Certain conversations fill the soul with restlessness instead of peace. This sensitivity is not a burden, it is a mercy. Just as a healthy body becomes sensitive to things that harm it, a guided heart becomes sensitive to influences that weaken its spiritual well-being. The discomfort the person feels is not necessarily evidence that they have become fragile. Often, it is evidence that the soul is becoming more awake. Ibn Arabi understood that many forms of distance from Allah develop gradually. Rarely does a person wake up one morning completely disconnected from their Creator. More often, the distance grows through small habits repeated over time: a neglected prayer, an unchecked distraction, an unhealthy attachment, a pattern of thinking that slowly pulls the heart away from remembrance. Because these influences work quietly, many people never notice them. The guided soul begins noticing. The person starts observing how different choices affect their inner state. They become aware that some activities leave them feeling spiritually refreshed, while others leave them feeling empty. They notice that certain relationships encourage sincerity, patience, and gratitude, while others constantly pull their attention toward negativity, comparison, or forgetfulness. This awareness often leads to difficult realizations. The person may discover that some of the things they once enjoyed are no longer helping them grow. They may recognize that certain environments are shaping their heart in unhealthy ways. They may become aware that some influences they considered harmless have been quietly weakening their connection to Allah for years. This can feel uncomfortable because awareness always arrives before change. The soul sees what it previously ignored. It recognizes patterns that once remained hidden. Yet this discomfort is part of guidance itself. Allah is allowing the servant to see clearly so that they can choose more wisely. The remarkable thing is that this growing sensitivity is usually accompanied by a stronger desire for what benefits the soul. As certain influences lose their appeal, the heart begins seeking different sources of nourishment. Remembrance becomes more meaningful. Reflection becomes more attractive. Time spent in worship begins carrying a peace that worldly distractions struggle to provide. The person does not necessarily become perfect. They still struggle. They still make mistakes. They still face moments of weakness. Yet, they can no longer move comfortably in the same direction as before. Something inside them has changed. The heart has become aware of its need for Allah. Because of that awareness, distance no longer feels normal. Ibn Arabi saw this as a beautiful sign of divine care. Allah does not simply command a soul to come closer. He gradually teaches it to recognize what prevents that closeness. He develops an inner sensitivity that helps the servant distinguish between what strengthens the heart and what weakens it. This sensitivity becomes a form of protection. The person begins making different choices, not merely because they feel obligated, but because they understand the effect those choices have upon their relationship with Allah. They start guarding their heart more carefully. They become more intentional about where they invest their attention, who they allow to influence them, and what they repeatedly expose themselves to. This is why guided souls often experience a growing awareness of what distances them from Allah. It is not because life suddenly becomes restrictive. It is because the heart is becoming more alive. It is learning to recognize what helps it draw nearer to its Creator and what quietly pulls it away. And when this awareness begins taking root, the person discovers that guidance is not only found in knowing where to go, it is also found in recognizing what no longer belongs on the path. The unseen hand that keeps bringing you back. Comforting signs of divine guidance is that Allah does not abandon a soul simply because it becomes distracted, confused, or temporarily distant. Ibn Arabi taught that when Allah takes responsibility for guiding a person, there is often an unseen mercy operating throughout their life. Again and again, circumstances arise that gently pull the heart back toward its Creator. These moments may appear ordinary when viewed individually, yet together they reveal a pattern of divine care that becomes visible only with reflection. Human beings are not created with perfect consistency. There are periods of strength and periods of weakness. There are moments when the heart feels close to Allah, and moments when worldly concerns occupy most of its attention. There are times when faith feels vivid, and times when it feels distant. The guided soul is not necessarily the soul that never stumbles. Rather, it is often the soul that continues being brought back after every period of forgetfulness. Many people can look back over their lives and identify moments that changed their direction. At the time, those moments may have seemed small. A conversation with a stranger, a verse heard unexpectedly, a lecture that appeared at exactly the right time, a personal difficulty that forced deeper reflection, an encounter with someone whose words lingered in the heart long after the meeting ended. None of these experiences may have appeared extraordinary, yet each carried a message that redirected the soul. Ibn Arabi believed that Allah often guides through reminders rather than dramatic interventions. The heart begins moving too far toward heedlessness, and a reminder appears. The person becomes consumed by worldly concerns, and an event occurs that restores perspective. The soul starts forgetting its purpose, and a realization emerges that awakens it once again. This process is one of the hidden mercies of divine guidance. The person may think they are moving through life alone, making independent decisions and navigating their own path. Yet when they look back carefully, they begin noticing a series of moments that seem almost arranged. Certain reminders appeared precisely when they were needed. Certain lessons arrived at exactly the right time. Certain people entered their life briefly, but left a lasting impact. What once looked random begins revealing a deeper pattern. The remarkable thing is that these reminders often arrive through unexpected channels. Allah may teach through a difficulty that exposes an unhealthy attachment. He may teach through a disappointment that redirects the heart toward Him. He may teach through an act of kindness that restores hope. He may teach through a simple observation that suddenly changes the way a person sees their life. The soul gradually learns that guidance is not confined to formal religious settings. Allah can place reminders anywhere. A moment of silence can become a reminder. A personal loss can become a reminder. A beautiful scene in nature can become a reminder. Even the passage of time itself can become a reminder when the heart is prepared to receive the lesson hidden within it. As guidance deepens, the person begins recognizing how often Allah has prevented them from becoming permanently lost. There may have been periods when they drifted far from what truly mattered. There may have been seasons when distractions dominated their attention. Yet somehow, something always brought them back. A realization emerged. A reminder appeared. A circumstance changed. A question arose within the heart that could no longer be ignored. This repeated return is not accidental. Ibn Arabi saw it as evidence of divine concern. There are people who forget Allah, and there are people whom Allah continually reminds. The difference is not necessarily found in personal strength. Often, it is found in divine mercy. Allah continues opening small windows through which light enters the soul. He continues creating opportunities for reflection. He continues placing signs along the road that call the heart back toward its original purpose. The guided soul becomes more aware of this pattern. Instead of viewing reminders as isolated events, the person begins seeing them as part of an ongoing relationship with Allah. Every return deepens gratitude. Every awakening strengthens trust. Every reminder becomes evidence that Allah has not abandoned the journey. This awareness creates a profound sense of hope. The person realizes that guidance is not a single event that happened once in the past. It is an ongoing process. Allah continues teaching, correcting, redirecting, and calling the soul closer. Even moments of weakness become opportunities for return. Even mistakes become occasions for learning. The heart begins understanding that one of the greatest signs of Allah's care is not that the soul never loses its way. It is that Allah repeatedly creates pathways leading it back. Through reminders, encounters, lessons, and realizations, He refuses to leave the soul trapped in forgetfulness forever. This is the unseen hand that keeps bringing you back. A mercy working quietly beneath the surface of life. A guidance that appears again and again in different forms. A sign that Allah is still directing the journey even when the traveler does not fully recognize it. And for the soul that notices this pattern, every return becomes evidence that divine guidance has been present all along, patiently leading it back toward the one it was created to seek. The transformation that others cannot see yet. Among all the signs of divine guidance, perhaps the most profound is also the most difficult to recognize from the outside. People naturally notice visible changes. They notice new achievements, new opportunities, new circumstances, and new successes. They often measure growth according to what can be observed. Yet Ibn Arabi taught that the deepest work Allah performs within a soul frequently takes place beyond the reach of human sight. A person may appear outwardly unchanged. They may live in the same home, work in the same place, and interact with the same people. Their daily life may look remarkably similar to how it looked months or even years earlier. To those around them, nothing extraordinary seems to be happening. Yet beneath the surface, an entirely different reality may be unfolding. The heart is changing. The priorities are changing. The understanding is changing. The relationship with Allah is changing. These transformations often happen so gradually that even the person experiencing them may not immediately recognize their significance. Ibn Arabi understood that divine guidance is not merely concerned with changing circumstances. Allah is shaping the soul itself. While human beings focus on what happens around them, Allah often focuses on what is happening within them. The guided soul begins developing qualities that cannot easily be measured by the standards of the world. Greater patience begins emerging where impatience once dominated. Greater sincerity begins replacing the desire for recognition. Greater trust begins appearing where anxiety once ruled. These changes are subtle because they occur in the hidden chambers of the heart. A person may discover that they no longer react to situations the way they once did. Events that previously created intense anger now inspire reflection. Difficulties that once produced despair now encourage reliance upon Allah. Situations that once consumed all of their attention gradually lose their power. The transformation is real, but it is largely invisible. This is why many guided souls go through periods where they feel misunderstood. The world often celebrates visible accomplishments while remaining unaware of spiritual growth. People may notice that someone has gained wealth, status, or influence. Few people notice when a heart becomes more humble. Few people notice when a soul learns patience. Few people notice when a person quietly overcomes an attachment that has burdened them for years. Yet these unseen victories are among the greatest gifts Allah can give. Ibn Arabi believed that some of the most valuable transformations occur away from public attention because they are taking place directly between the servant and Allah. There is no need for recognition. There is no need for applause. The soul is being prepared for a deeper relationship with its Creator, and that preparation often unfolds in silence. As divine guidance continues, the person begins noticing signs within themselves that would have been impossible to imagine before. They become more aware of Allah's presence during ordinary moments. They feel a stronger desire for truth. They become more sensitive to what strengthens or weakens their connection with Allah. The things that once captivated their attention no longer occupy the same place within the heart. What makes this transformation remarkable is that it is not forced. The person is not pretending to be different. They are becoming different. Allah is gradually reshaping the inner landscape of the soul. This process resembles the growth of roots beneath the earth. Long before a tree becomes impressive above the surface, an invisible network develops below it. Those hidden roots create stability, strength, and nourishment. Anyone looking at the ground may see very little happening, yet the most important preparation is already underway. The guided soul often develops in a similar way. Before major changes appear outwardly, deep changes occur inwardly. Before visible fruit appears, hidden roots are strengthened. Before the world notices anything different, Allah has already begun creating a new reality within the heart. Ibn Arabi taught that this hidden transformation is one of the clearest signs that Allah has taken responsibility for guiding a soul. The person may still struggle, they may still face challenges, they may still experience moments of weakness, yet they are no longer the same person they once were. Their inner world has begun moving in a different direction. They start valuing what is eternal more than what is temporary. They start seeking wisdom more than approval. They start longing for nearness to Allah more than worldly recognition. These changes may not attract attention from others, but they are precious in the sight of Allah. the person realizes that the greatest evidence of divine guidance was never the outward events they were waiting for. It was the quiet transformation taking place within them all along. While they were looking for dramatic signs, Allah was rebuilding the soul itself. While they were searching for proof in circumstances, Allah was placing proof within the heart. This is the transformation that others cannot see yet. A sacred work unfolding beneath the surface. A new soul being formed through divine care, wisdom, and guidance. And although the world may overlook it, Allah sees every change, every lesson, every awakening, and every step of growth. For the soul that is being guided, that unseen transformation is often the greatest miracle of all. Ibn Arabi taught that the greatest proof of Allah's guidance is not found in extraordinary experiences, but in the quiet transformation of the soul itself. A guided soul begins seeing what it once ignored, questioning what it once accepted, and seeking what it once overlooked. The world may not notice the change, yet Allah is already reshaping the heart from within. If certain doors have closed, if certain desires have faded, if you keep finding yourself drawn back toward Allah despite your struggles, do not dismiss these moments. They may be signs that divine guidance is already at work. When Allah takes responsibility for guiding a soul, every lesson, every redirection, and every awakening becomes part of a journey leading toward Him. And perhaps the most beautiful evidence of all is that the soul no longer wants to walk any path that takes it away from Allah.